All right, guys. Why do my lights make my face look orange? My lights are all white. They make my face look orange. Okay, whatever. It's 10 minutes till 9 on Friday, October 24th. I'm going to do another news wrap up because I haven't done one in a couple of weeks. And the last one was fun. It was a good time. So some people are going to join. Sorry to everybody on the East Coast. It's almost 9 p.m. In California, which means it's almost midnight for you guys. But I'm confident that a lot of you guys on the East Coast are still up. So I'm going to kill a couple of minutes here. Yeah, almost 1 a.m. There we go. We're up. All right, there you go. SoCal, how you doing? Thank you for that comment. You're my favorite on here. That's amazing. Thank you for that. Hi from Ohio. Hi, Kristen. Okay. All right. We're starting to get some folks in here. We're up around 500 people. I mean, that's not bad, a minute in. Good God. Okay. Thanks, everybody, for watching. So I'm Hawk. It's Friday night. It's almost 9 p.m. West Coast time. Thought Santa Cruz, how you doing, man? I thought I'd hop on and do another news wrap up and just run through a whole list of news stories, and we'll just see what comes up and we'll talk about it. And first headline: the Justice Department will monitor elections. That sounds great. That sounds great under the Trump administration. Ottawa, Canada, Oregon, Iowa, Joshua Tree, sweet. I've never been to Joshua Tree. I really want to go down there sometime. A buddy of mine has a house down there. The Trump administration, so this is from the New York Times. The Trump administration said on Friday that the Justice Department, under Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, will monitor polling sites in California and New Jersey ahead of the November 4th election amid requests by Republican officials in both of those states. Wow. So what's going on in California and New Jersey? California has their redistricting ballot measure. In New Jersey, there's a very important governor's race. Oh boy, I think that's the race with Democrat Mikey Sherrill, who I think is former CIA, former military, and her opponent for the New Jersey governor's race is a guy named Jack Ciattarelli, who, I mean, if there's not a more appropriate name for somebody like him, I don't know what is. Donald Trump's DOJ is going to monitor elections this coming Tuesday, a week from Tuesday, in California and New Jersey. Because California has got a redistricting proposal on the ballot to counter the redistricting that Republicans just did in Texas to try to steal the House of Representatives in November 2026. So, here's one of my favorite headlines that I saw of the day. This headline, this headline is amazing. Republicans were unaware of candidates' view on women. Out of Louisville, Kentucky, the Louisville Courier-Journal, a Kentucky Republican official said that the committee that recently selected Calvin Leach as the GOP's State Senate District 37 nominee was unaware of a blog post that he authored that described women in vulgar and sexist terms. That's so unlike white male evangelical Republicans to describe women in vulgar and sexist terms. We don't hear that kind of thing from white male evangelical Republicans very often. Candidate Calvin Leach lamented his, quote, encounter with the dating scene, close quote, and referred to women as promiscuous skanks who had been put on a pedestal by society and only date for personal gain. He added, these girls are soulless parasites. Don't walk away, run. And so he wants to be a member of the Kentucky State Senate as a Republican. His name is Calvin Leach. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Calvin Leach has never been in the same room as a woman while that woman was having an orgasm. I think we can be confident in that statement. Graham Platner. So I did a video earlier today about Graham Platner and his chest tattoo, which was a Totenkopf, which translates it's German. It translates to Death's Head, and it was an image that is linked inextricably to the Nazi SS. And I was thinking about that after I made that video. I was driving home from therapy. I made that video when I was in my car waiting to go into therapy. But then I was thinking on the way home, the crazy thing over the last couple of days since he got this, since it was revealed by the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee, which is run by Chuck Schumer. They've been doing all these oppo dumps on Graham Platner, and they're the ones that revealed that he had gotten this tattoo. I think it was 18 years ago, 2007. He was 19 or 20 years old in Europe, which is not to minimize it. And I'm seeing all these people who look like me on the left who are excusing they're excusing this guy for accidentally getting a Nazi tattoo. It's been quite an experience watching white people on the left explain away a guy who got a Nazi tattoo and said that he did that on accident. And so I was driving home this afternoon, and I was thinking, I'm like, what would be, I'm like, if white people on the left are excusing this, what wouldn't they excuse? And the thought popped into my head, what if 20 years ago, or whenever it was that he got this tattoo, what if 20 years ago he had gotten an IDF tattoo? And that came out in October of 2025. Would people on the left be so willing to forgive that? It was just a thought experiment that popped into my head. I don't have an answer for it. But I thought it was something interesting to think about. So, because that's what my brain does when I'm on a freeway, and driving on a freeway is like the closest that I get to meditating, where I'm just like, what? I'm going 80 miles an hour. Okay. And my brain is doing what my brain does. Canada. Last night, Donald Trump, in a rage post on Truth Social, announced that trade talks with Canada were over, that they had cheated, they had been caught cheating, because they ran an ad that quoted Ronald Reagan, that quoted a speech, using audio of a speech that Ronald Reagan gave in 1987 when I was 19 years old, saying that tariffs could be a bad thing. And Donald Trump said that video was fake, that the audio was fake, and that Canada had been caught cheating. And so he was terminating trade talks with Canada. I don't know, man. And then he was rage posting about that all day today. All day today. It was crazy. He was really, really upset about that ad, because I don't know if there are still Republicans who give a shit about Ronald Reagan. I would be surprised if there are any Republicans who support Donald Trump who still support Ronald Reagan, because Ronald Reagan, it's like they hold him up as like some kind of a god. They used to, anyway. He couldn't win the Republican Party nomination today. He just couldn't. I just saw somebody in the comments that said, "Let's go Blue Jays." Yeah, boy howdy! I watched the second half of Game One of the World Series earlier this evening. It's the Los Angeles Dodgers versus the Toronto Blue Jays, and I've lived in San Francisco for 25 years, so I am a San Francisco Giants fan, which means that by definition, I absolutely hate the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Los Angeles Dodgers bullpen absolutely fucking cratered tonight. The final score was like 11-4. The Dodgers were up earlier in the game, like I think it was the fifth or sixth inning, and one of their guys, or the Blue Jays were up over the Dodgers in the middle of the game, and the bases were loaded, and one of the Blue Jays batters came up and hit a grand slam, and that was that. That was the ball game, so to speak. So I'm always happy, very, very happy to watch the Los Angeles Dodgers absolutely crater and humiliate themselves on the global stage. So that was very enjoyable for me, and I got a lot out of that. So yeah, go Blue Jays. And Geddy Lee, bass player, vocalist, keyboardist from Rush. He lives in Toronto. The game was in Toronto. I don't know if he was at tonight's game. He's usually at the Blue Jays games. I'm a Rush fan. And so that kind of makes me a Blue Jays fan, especially in this series. In this series, I'm definitely a Blue Jays fan. Okay, back to the news. Donald Trump is going to name the $300 million White House ballroom after himself. Officials are already referring to it as the President Donald J. Trump Ballroom. That's going to last 3 years. And then, okay, yeah. So I made a video earlier today about Steve Bannon and his comments. And I went through kind of their plans and picked them apart, what I know about their plans for how they're going to get around the 22nd Amendment. The 22nd Amendment says that no person shall be elected to more than 2 terms as president, and that Steve Bannon's whole thing is, well, we have plans in place. They think they're going to put Donald Trump in the presidency by some mechanism other than him being elected. That could be, through some chicanery and tomfoolery of some kind. It could be through force. But then also, as I was driving home from therapy, I was listening to today's episode of the Bulwark podcast with Tim Miller. And he did a monologue at the beginning where he was talking about this stuff. And he added 2 crucial points that I had not included in my video. One of which is Steve Bannon says things like this because Steve Bannon wants people to talk about Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon wants attention. He says inflammatory bullshit like this, but he says it with authority. He says it with intelligence. He says it, with alacrity. He says it with vocabulary and confidence. And so people, for some reason, pay attention when he says things. But I think his main goal in saying what he said it in an interview with a couple of reporters from The Economist. He was talking about, Donald Trump is going to win a 3rd term. He's going to win the 2028. He's going to be president after 2028 is what he said. He didn't say anything about elections. But, Steve Bannon talks and says shit like this so that people will talk about Steve Bannon. And since this interview came out, everybody's been talking about Steve Bannon, in these comments that he made. Steve Bannon is a human shitpost. He is a bathtub meth impresario and a professional hobo. But the second point that Tim Miller made, Donald Trump is 79 years old right now. At the end of his term, he's going to be 83. Donald Trump's mind is already just addled from dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever you want to call it. I mean, Donald Trump's brain is fucked. He just rambles on about nothing. So much worse than his first term. He's losing what's left of his hair. There's not much left for them to work with. He's morbidly obese. He's got cankles from his heart condition. He's got that bruising thing going on his hands. I would be very surprised if at the end of his term, Donald Trump is still alive. God forbid that anything should happen to Donald Trump, unnaturally. I have to say that so the NSA and the CIA and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi and Stephen Miller don't come after me. I would be very surprised if, by December 31st, 2028, Donald Trump is still alive. It's crazy. It's like he very famously has never drank alcohol because his brother died from alcoholism. But, his reported use of amphetamines and amphetamine-like substances has been so exaggerated over the years that I think it was one of the producers of The Apprentice said that that's why he no longer has control over his own bowels, because he's done amphetamine-like substances in huge amounts, allegedly, for so many years. I mean, he's abused amphetamines enough that he no longer has control over his own bowels. And it's like if you add in, a dozen Diet Cokes and a few Big Macs every single day, Donald Trump, even though he has famously never drank, he has abused the ever-loving shit out of his body. He just has. He has abused his body through his diet and through, European Sudafed and things of that nature. Allegedly. I don't know that for sure. But, apparently he has not had full control over his bowels for like the last 15 years. And so I would be utterly astonished if Donald Trump is alive on New Year's Eve 2028. I'll be stunned. Inflation is up again. It went up 3% in September. It went up like 2.8% in August. And inflation was up 3% last month. So Social Security recipients are getting a cost of living increase of 2.8%, keeping them a little bit behind, not allowing them to keep up with inflation. Because, why would you do that? And speaking of inflation, a week ago when Donald Trump announced his bullshit Ballroom, the price was $200 million. A couple days later, it was $250 million. A couple days later, it was $300 million. And as of today, it's $350 million. Allegedly, all of it being paid for with private donor money from corporations who are capitulating, corporations and individuals that are capitulating to Donald Trump, which reminds me, California Governor Gavin Newsom, his trolling game remains top shelf, man. It just remains top shelf. On his website, Gavin Newsom is now selling red knee pads that has Donald Trump's signature on the knee pad. And he was like, these are for every corporate leader and university leader and individual and law firm who are capitulating to the Trump administration. Gavin Newsom is now selling autographed Donald Trump knee pads for those people. He said, it's because they get down on their knees. And what he really meant to say was, it's because these people get down on their knees and suck Donald Trump's dick. So that's the first comment that I've made in kind of a mild attempt to see if I can get this live banned. Now, what are you going to do, man? I'm bored. The White House has said that there is no money shuffling that they can do to continue to fund SNAP benefits into November, food stamp benefits that are going to negatively impact 41 million Americans, including, I can't remember, it's like 8 or 12 million children. I mean, and I just made a TikTok about this a few minutes ago, man. We are sending $40 billion to Argentina. We have the money to do that. We send $4 billion and an ungodly amount of weapons to Israel. We have the money and the weapons to do that. For Americans, the government is shut down. Republicans are about to take food stamp and SNAP benefits away from 41 million Americans, and they're trying to take health care away from over 20 million Americans. And Donald Trump has completely rat-fucked American soybean farmers, and he's about to do that to American cattle ranchers and beef farmers by flooding the market with beef from Argentina. And, you know, so it's like we're providing tens of billions of dollars of cash and benefits to other countries. Nothing for American soybean farmers, nothing for American cattle ranchers, nothing for Americans who are on food stamps, nothing for the 20 plus million Americans who are about to lose their health insurance. And apparently I saw a video today that the child support collection and payment system is also being shut down across the country because of a lack of funding. So it's like single moms who are trying to raise their kids, who are also getting SNAP benefits, who have their health insurance through the government, are about to lose all of those things right before the holidays. Because if there's anybody who Donald Trump hates more than liberals, it's women, especially black women. Donald Trump and Republicans absolutely fucking hate black women. But here we are. It's just, I think something like, I'm trying to remember the stat that I read. Black unemployment this year has almost doubled, and something like 300,000 black women have lost their jobs. The majority of those being federal workers who've been fired by white men in the Trump administration. And it's absolutely fucking atrocious. And I know that Donald Trump loves to say things like, "Where's my African American?" And Donald Trump and other Republicans love to refer to African Americans as the blacks. And it's like, I'm a fucking dumb white guy from Ohio and who grew up in incredibly segregated circumstances. And even I cringe when I hear another white person say the blacks when they're talking about African American human beings. You know, to reduce them to that is just like, wow, man, fucking really? He's increasing tariffs on China again. Okay. Here's something from the Daily Beast. Satellite imagery shows that 6 trees on the White House grounds, including southern magnolias commemorating Presidents Warren G. Harding and Franklin Roosevelt, were chopped down this week as part of abruptly demolishing the West Wing, or the East Wing, sorry. Boy, man, I mean, maybe we should demolish the West Wing while we're at it here. Republicans raise questions about Trump's drug war. What a remarkably diplomatic headline. I feel like a more accurate way to phrase that headline would be, Republicans raise questions about Donald Trump murdering civilians from South American countries, Colombia and Venezuela. We've bombed something like 8 or 9 boats in the Caribbean. And Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth have just said over and over and over again, they're terrorists. They're terrorists. They're terrorists. They're terrorists. They're narco terrorists. No evidence, no names. I saw an article yesterday that said like charred limbs, like charred arms and legs are washing up on beaches in Venezuela from these attacks, from these bombings of boats. They might be drug runners. I don't know. I've not seen any evidence that they are drug runners. Pete Hegseth is sending an aircraft carrier to the Caribbean in a major escalation of military buildup in the region. Donald Trump, he's gonna drop a nuclear weapon on Venezuela. Donald Trump's gonna drop a nuke on Venezuela and be like, I'm allowed to do that. I'm allowed. I have absolute power. I'm allowed. Many people are saying I'm allowed. He's going to drop a fucking nuclear weapon on Venezuela. Oh, thank God. Oh, my God. Imagine my sense of relief. Imagine my overwhelming sense of relief that roughly 10 days before Election Day on November 4th, 5 months after the primary in New York City for mayor, the primary that Zoran Mamdani won 5 months ago, that now, 10 days before the election, AIPAC has apparently released Hakeem Jeffries and is now permitting him to endorse Zoran Mamdani for New York City mayor, which House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries did earlier today, 10 days before the election. The Democratic leader in Congress finally decided after 5 months to endorse the Democratic candidate for mayor in New York City. Hakeem Jeffries, Richie Torres, Kirsten Gillibrand, Chuck Schumer, Kathy Hoke, I think is the governor of New York, Adam Schiff, all of them are AIPAC fucking hacks, and they all need to go away immediately. They are all AIPAC fucking hacks, and they need to go away. Man. Letitia James, New York Attorney General, she pleaded not guilty today to criminal charges that she committed bank fraud and relative to a lender when she bought a house in Norfolk, Virginia 5 years ago. That's a bullshit case. It's going to get dismissed on a motion for vindictive prosecution. Okay, so we talked about the New Jersey governor's race. Let's talk about the Virginia governor's race. The Democrat, Abigail Spanberger, I mean, establishment, middle of the road, former military, former CIA, much like Mikey Sherrill up in New Jersey. Her Republican opponent is the current Virginia lieutenant governor, a woman named Winsome Earl Sears. She's a black woman. She won the Republican nomination for governor in Virginia. From what I understand, what they do in Virginia, they don't have like an actual primary. The party delegates or something get together and pick a candidate on both sides. I think they do that on both sides. And so Republicans picked Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears, who in polling is getting her ass absolutely handed to her by Abigail Spanberger, who is talking about, what's typically described as kitchen table issues. She's talking about economic stuff. She's talking about taxes. She's talking about inflation, grocery prices, things along those lines. Winsome Earl Sears, almost her entire campaign has been about trans people. Yeah, because, when inflation's going up by 3% a month, that's what Virginia Republicans really care about, is trans people and trans kids. But her schedule is empty for months at a time. The government website of Virginia, and she's an office holder under that white guy, that potato who's worth like $700 or $800 million, who's the governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin. The government website of Virginia Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears, Republican, highlights that she has traveled over 28,000 miles across the Commonwealth of Virginia since coming into office, and has headlined numerous events across the Commonwealth and across the nation. But her official lieutenant governor's schedule tells a different story. Unredacted calendar documents obtained this month by website Notice, Notus, via the Virginia Freedom of Information Act showed large gaps, sometimes weeks or months, where Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears lists no meetings, events, or government engagements on her official schedule at all. So she does nothing. Exchange of the day. President Donald Trump took questions from reporters at the White House with Attorney General Pam Bondi earlier today. Donald Trump said the following: Adam Schiff is one of the lowest forms of scum I've ever dealt with in politics. You're telling me, Pam, that he's going to get indicted? I don't know. You could ask Pam. And Pam Bondi said, we are not going to comment on any grand jury that's open. We can't do that legally. Trump said, I hope it's true that he's going to get indicted. So Pam Bondi, even though she's not permitted to comment on any grand jury that's open, seems to have just confirmed that there is a grand jury that is open and investigating Adam Schiff, which could possibly be a crime. Yeah. We blew up another boat in the Caribbean today. GOP senators are uncomfortable that Trump may pay himself. I think I did. I don't know if I did a post on this today or not. Reports this week that Donald Trump is demanding that the Justice Department pay him $230 million in compensation for wrongful prosecution is making Republican senators uncomfortable amid the 24-day shutdown in which they've terminated SNAP benefits for 41 million Americans, and they're taking health care away from over 20 million Americans. Donald Trump's building a $300 million ballroom while the government is shut down, and now he's demanding that the Justice Department give him another $230 million. I don't know, man. Americans see Trump's retribution for what it is. A new Quinnipiac University poll finds that voters believe by a 52-38 margin that President Trump was using the U.S. Department of Justice to file unjustified criminal charges against his political opponents. So again, it's like, it's 52-38. So 38% of Americans are fucking morons. They are anti-American dipshits. A new Reuters Ipsos poll found that Americans said 55-26% that Trump was using federal law enforcement to go after his enemies. Even 29% of Republicans agreed with this. Well, it's good to know that 29% of Republicans can chew their food with their mouths closed. Let's see. Lindsey Graham pushes Russia week. Apparently he got, like a new calendar with, like shirtless Russian soldiers on it or something. I'll leave that there. Donald Trump is losing Hispanic voters, according to a new AP NORC poll. President Trump's favorability has fallen among Hispanic adults since the beginning of the year. The poll shows a potential warning sign from a key constituency that helped secure his victory in the 2024 election. The poll finds that 25% of Hispanic adults have a somewhat or very favorable view of Trump. That's down from 44% at the beginning of the year. He's lost 20 points with Hispanic voters. Another quote of the day from U.S. Senate candidate Graham Platner from the state of Maine. It's been a hell of a week. I went from being a communist on Thursday to a Nazi by Monday. Accurate. Another quote of the day, Donald Trump talking about Venezuela and not getting a declaration of war. He said, "The land is going to be next. I think we are going to kill people bringing drugs into our country, okay? We're going to kill them, you know. They're going to be, like, dead." He is so fucking stupid. He's just... Oh, my God. Trump isn't budging on Showdown. This is from Punchbowl News. The White House is not interested at all in extending the enhanced premium Obamacare subsidies at the center of the shutdown fight. It does not seem as if Trump is anywhere close to folding or beginning negotiations with Democrats, because apparently the only two things of any importance right now to Donald Trump is building his ballroom and taking health care away from 20 million plus Americans and taking SNAP benefits and food stamps away from more than 40 million Americans, including like 10 million children, right before Thanksgiving. As we hand $40 billion to Argentina, because, you know, fuck American farmers and American cattle ranchers, and as we continue to funnel $4 billion a year and unimaginable amounts of weapons to Israel, where they have free abortion on demand that we pay for. Make America great again. You know, this fucking country, man. This country, this electorate. I mean, we're cut off from the world, you know. We, as the people of the United States, we're cut off from the world. I haven't seen any international TikToks lately. I used to get them all the time. I used to enjoy those all the time. So it seems like Larry Ellison and his Zionist buddies have fully taken over my FYP. People in countries around the world have dramatically better standards of living than we do here in the United States, because their governments actually provide things for them. Republicans in charge of our government their entire agenda consists of two things: to remove every single thing from the federal government that provides any kind of benefit whatsoever for American people, while at the same time controlling every aspect of our lives: who we can love, who we can marry, what we learn in school, what we can see in national parks about things like slavery and Native Americans and our actual history. You know, they want Bibles in every classroom. They want to eradicate trans people and trans kids from existence entirely. And you know, 40% of the people who live in this country think that that's amazing because Jesus. We are a nation of morons. We are a nation of morons. All right, it's 9:30 p.m. I have more shit to do tonight. Thanks everybody for watching my little news recap. We will get it up on our YouTube page tomorrow. I'm booked tomorrow during the day, so I may not be back on this app until sometime late Saturday evening. So I hope it's Friday night. I hope everybody's weekend is getting off to a good start. There's a lot of protesting that's going on this weekend. I really, really hope everyone stays safe. Do not talk to the police. Do not answer questions. Do not consent to searches, and demand an attorney immediately if you get detained in any way, shape, or form. Have an amazing weekend and stay safe, everybody. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks again for watching.